Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Lone Coat Mafia podcast. It is I, once again, the Reverend GodFather, the show's main host and front man. And guess what, folks? Before I introduce my guest, we are back. Believe it or not, we are back at the daily grind to record this episode, believe it or not. And with me today is a special guest. He's going by the name of Blaine.
Hello there, Drunken Grandmaster Blaine.
And we are here for a kind of a special treat for all of you, and that is that this is kind of a convention special again. I know a few weeks ago we kind of talked about going to cons and all that, but in this episode we're going to be talking about a few cons that Blaine has went to, I've went to, and what happened at a con between the ones that both of us went to. And we're going to start with Blaine, and the con he went to, and what he went to was BronyCon. And tell us a little bit about BronyCon, what it's about, what goes on, and so forth and so on.
All right, well, BronyCon, it is the, believe it or not, My Little Pony convention, the only one left on the East Coast. Now, My Little Pony has gone through a lot of different incarnations over the last 30 years, and the newest one, Generation 4, really struck a chord with a lot of people because they got a lot of really competent writers who have been in the business for a long time to work on this show. The characters hooked people, both young and old, real fast, and wouldn't have been possible without the internet. All these people got together and formed a handful of conventions, the first of which was BronyCon. BronyCon, it's in Baltimore where Otakon used to be, and basically they have meet and greets with the show staff, the voice actors, the cartoonists who write the comics. They have Q&A panels. They have a good handful of comedy shows. Some of them about the show, and some of them just involving fans of the show. And one of my personal favorites, they have a rave down in the basement every Friday and Saturday night, which is usually a lot of fun. They have a lot of people who make their own music, etc.
So, and one of the videos that you put up, I won't direct people to it, but this was on your personal Facebook page, that this next year is going to be their last year.
Yes.
Why? Did they let everybody know why, or?
They haven't exactly. They've a couple people on the staff have listed some reasons, some of them conflicting, but the biggest reason is that attendance has been dwindling over the last 3 conventions, which is always a problem. Like most fandoms, it goes through, its phases as it either fades or grows or alters. And in this case, the crowd that's always looking for something new, they've gone on to look for something new, obviously. The crowd that, likes to just be douchey and troll people and use the show to annoy the living hell out of everyone, they've shockingly moved on. There's not as many instances as, a troll crowd in the fandom anymore.
The thing is, this isn't the first show this year to announce. I won't say announce, but this year I found out through several friends that I have on my personal friends list that this year was, I think, the last year for Joe Fest or G.I. Joe Fest. It's strictly a G.I. Joe convention, right, to celebrate the comics, the culture, cosplay. It's I won't say it's similar to BronyCon, but it kind of, the way they make it sound like it is, meaning right, that they have the actors and the voice actors and so forth and so on. But this year was their last, and I didn't really catch why it was their last. I guess similar reasons, low attendance over the past couple of years, and I guess a lot of people were either getting tired of it. There is, with a lot of shows, as much, even though with show conventions as big as Otakon and Baltimore Comic Con and Wizard World, there's always more comics, more anime, more pop culture coming out,
Right.
like a Wizard World, that constantly is able to refresh things and keep attendance high. That meaning that with a show, let's go with Baltimore Comic Con. I've told people, as much as I love Baltimore Comic Con, I've kind of suffered con burnout, and it's nothing against the convention, the promoter, or anything like that. It's just that even though I don't have a way to get there, if I did, it's just I wouldn't have as much as a good time going there as I did in years past.
Yeah.
And when there's no, I guess that's the tough part in reference to like BronyCon, even though you have a lot of fans that like to go back and meet it. Cons have always been like a family to a lot of fans.
Yeah.
You have friends from Alaska, Hawaii, Maine, all over the world coming to one of these events.
A lot of people from Ireland this year.
Ireland as well, all over the world. And when you have these folks every year, the expenses keep going up and up and up. It gets tougher. It gets tougher coming to the events, and you have a few people like, you know what, not this year, not this year. And it sadly that happens. As much as I kid about bronies and all that in a fun way. For our new listeners out there, when we initially made fun of bronies and I think BronyCon one year, or in an episode a couple of months ago.
I'm a big boy. I can take a joke.
Yeah, we had a guest on. We made a little bit of a in jest. It wasn't like a troll. It was in jest. And a couple months later, we had Burn the artist come on the show to talk about different things, and he trolled us right back and handed us kind of a Dungeon and Dragons-esque desktop role playing My Little Pony book.
I got a couple of those.
So it was we trolled. We did in jest, and he trolled us right back. So it was a fun. It wasn't in regards to like, how dare in being insulted. It was just in
how dare you?
How dare you? So it was in fun back and forth, and it's something that we're not really I'm not really familiar with the culture. It's something that probably we would have to get with Byrne, and because he's run Dungeons and Dragons type of ordeals that help us set up a type of game night with it, and just for shits and giggles somewhere. Right. And also to one of your videos, it could have been the same video in regards to the announcement of next year being the last. You said you wanted to do a documentary in regards to that?
Yes. Me and actually a handful of me and currently one other person, but we're branching out and trying to make it a community project. We want to do a retrospect of both the convention and the fandom, because the fandom is 7 years old, and so is the convention. So we kind of want to do how it was then, how it is now, and how some of the people who are still into the show and still into the convention scene, how they've changed or how they've grown. Because this one, I want to say, she used to be a girl. She used to be a high school student in the early days, but now she's about, I think, 19, maybe 20. Her name is Ink Rose. She began writing fan fictions and headcanon lore and doing fan art, and eventually she branched out and started writing her own fantasy novels, and it actually wound up on a bestseller list, if I'm not mistaken. And her fan base from when she did pony-related videos, they really helped out with her sales.
So would there be any GoFundMe or Indiegogo part to raise funds for this?
And not just yet. I'm still working on it. I'm still talking with people and trying to make all the connections we need before we start moving forward. But I am planning on opening up a GoFundMe for the documentary.
once you do, let us know. We'll be happy to at least help spread the word for it. So
you got it.
So that way, I just wanted to mention now. That way, if there was one already set up, we can include the stuff in our show notes and everything else.
Right.
But since that's not the case right now, but once we do, we'll do the push through our usual means. So, being a fan of Brony, I think we might just cover this. It's part of my ADD and just trying to. I'm not familiar with
no sweat
that aspect of the culture. Kind of fill in the listeners about that culture of the Brony country.
BronyCon is
not so much the con itself, but the overall.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. All right. My bad. The Brony fandom is they're similar to Trekkies. They're mostly just fans of the show, but like any fandom, there's the hardcore crowd, there's the moderate crowd, there's the hipster crowd, there's the crowd that likes to get a little freaky and obsessive, and there's people who write and read fan fiction. There's people who collect every ounce of merchandise, like the comics and the figures, and
any filthy casuals.
Yep, plenty of that.
So I'll be happy to be one of those in regards to when it comes to anime, the filthy casuals. So,
but on the whole, the bronies are just people who like the show. Either they watch the show and just enjoy a little break from reality, or they watch the show and see some of the morals and messages that they tackle. Because as the show, like I said, the show's been on for 7 years, and they've tackled some really heavy things sometimes. Season 6, they could have done it. They could have handled it better. But season 6, they actually had an episode addressing self-harm, which was really shocking to a lot of people. And like I said, the episode could have been handled better. But the fact that they tried to address something that heavy in a kid show, it caught a lot of people off guard.
I don't mean to move things on in regards to that. But since Blaine talked a little bit about BronyCon, in the middle in regards to this, let's move on to Otakon, which, as of this recording, is happening right now. And this will be posted pretty much as Otakon kind of comes to a close Sunday evening. Excuse me. But the thing is, this is their second. They've been around since the early 2000s, like maybe, I want to say 2002, maybe, if not 2000, 2002-ish. As stated in our last year's kind of review and covering the show, the first time we went back in 2006, it was in Baltimore, and again, at that particular show, we did not have a good time. There was a lot of attitude in that show, meaning that we did not, as ticket holders at that time, we did not feel welcome. There was that aspect of, even though there were probably a lot of fans that would have been welcoming to someone who wanted to find out more about the anime culture, who was, as a ticket holder, a filthy casual, in a way, but there was a lot of things at that time as a ticket holder I did not like. Lines to get into the dealer industry room, and how things were overly handled, and the fact that a few years later, I'm just recapping. If you want to check out the full story and our context in regards to things, please check out the episode we put up last year. I might dig out the link and put it in the description below, so it's easier for all of you to be connected to that episode and hear the full story. I'm trying to sum up. But last year was about a little more than 10 years since we went prior, and the attitude shift was completely different. It was, now granted, it was a shift more ways than one, meaning it went from Baltimore to D.C., and the shift was it was way more welcoming. I don't know if that was in essence a shift in a cultural shift. And the reason why I say cultural shift is that there is I don't know if Blaine could confirm this within the Brony culture, that in anime or a lot of culture, sometimes it goes through a phase, meaning where at one point it's not really welcoming to new viewers or new fans or incoming fans, whereas maybe a year or so down the line, it's more welcoming, or vice versa.
I was a Brody before it was cool.
Hipster. But last year, I noticed that shift walking in. The fans were, hey, how you doing? Whereas in Otakon 2006, it was 90% of those in attendance that were pretty much dressed up in one form of anime or another, and the percentage of those in costume, I'd say out of a whole, 98% were all anime and 2% was something other than anime related, whether it was Superman, Stargate, Ghostbusters, variant Star Wars, Star Trek. Last year it was maybe a 60-40 mix with those dressed up, meaning a wide range of things. It was well more welcoming. Now, here's the question, folks. Here's the questions you're probably asking right now. Is there a comparison, or everything changed from last year? Did our experiences change from last year? In a way, yes. They kind of did, and they kind of didn't as well. Let me explain. Last year, we didn't really we're not really up to speed with anime culture. We don't know a lot of the. It would be like us going to BronyCon. We don't know the people behind the comics, the voices. We would be going just to, if it was still going on.
Right.
We don't know. We wouldn't know too much. But if someone we knew, this year was a little bit different. There was we tried to get a few interviews last year that they would have been an awkward interview because we would have tried our damnedest to fiddle our way through the interviews, but which didn't work out. This year we'll be posting up, if we haven't already, or started posting up some YouTube videos to YouTube that we got at the show, which is way more than we did last year. We tried to get 2 interviews. This year we had to turn them down because of scheduling. The reason why I said the 2 people that we put in for was actor Johnny Young Bosch. I'm probably mispronouncing his name. Some of you,
got it.
I do apologize for that. For those of you who don't know, familiar with this actor, he was the second Black Power Ranger, and he voiced a character in the original Akira. He voiced Vash the Stampede in Trigon. He's voiced various different characters in gaming and anime. So it's someone we were familiar, at least somewhat familiar with in anime and on TV, that we could at least dove into and had some questions for and got an interview with. The second person that we chose that was on their guest list was Mr. Creepypasta. He's a YouTuber. He reads creepypastas and does videos for them. Again, someone we would have had at least spoken with and had a casual interest in YouTube in a way, and it would have made at least great content for both of you. But the thing with something in regards to Otakon being a larger venue, a larger con, unlike a convention such as 4-State, where all we have to do is, hey, so-and-so, can we get a quick interview, and get that interview. We have to go through Otakon to schedule that interview. And with a convention that size, they do a bulk interviews, which means they schedule, okay, this grouping of our guests is going to be on Friday, this grouping is Saturday, this grouping is Sunday. And Johnny, let me just say this, because I know a lot of you who listen don't follow us on Twitter or on our social media. We operate way underneath the poverty line. We do not earn any money for the show, and for us to stay 3 days at Otakon would cost us close to $1,000, if not more, because it would be about between $600 to $700, if not $800, closer to $800 with tax and probably deposit stay at the Marriott, which is like right next to the convention center, and I would love to. That's base room, and not to mention food and everything else. So we're looking at close to $1,000 for 3 nights. But the thing is, I don't have that money, and our interview with Johnny would have been Saturday today at 2 p.m. And our interview with Mr. Creepypasta would have been at tomorrow at like 3:30. Both days, there would have been no way in hell to be able to get these interviews. I know a lot of you out there that might be listening to this who are attending or have attended Otakon this year might say, well, there is Amtrak that leaves from your area to get to DC and back. Here's the thing. Amtrak that leaves here in Martinsburg, more often than not, out of 10 times, about 6 out of 10 times, they are late. And up to about an hour to 2 hours late. And so by the time if it's on time, we would have gotten to our nation's capital at about, I want to say if it leaves at 11 a.m. here in Martinsburg, it will get there about 1. It takes us about anywhere from a half hour to 45 minutes to get to the convention center. That means 1:30, best case scenario. That means we'd be at the show for about a half an hour before we have to leave to go back to the train station and catch the Amtrak at 3 o'clock to come back here. So our interviews would be completely out the window. Yet, even though the tickets to get into D.C. through Amtrak are relatively cheap, we're talking about $17 to $20, which is okay. So that's out the window. And I know some of you could have said, well, to bring the cost down for your room, you could have stayed with people. You could have broken up. There's plenty of people that would have been more than happy to share the room. Let me put it like this. As much as a lot of you out there who split and willing to take in multiple people for the room, this is not against you, but I have trust issues. I'd rather, as much as I would trust someone like Blaine, Dobbs, my co-host, Lloyd, Big Candy, Mad Eye, there's a plethora of people that I know and I've spoken to that I would easily trust more than a stranger. And I know for a fact those folks that I mentioned, including my guest here today, Blaine, would not, as much as I won't mind staying with them, if I walked out of the room, my equipment would be in the room. Those of you out there, I don't know if you'd be messing with my stuff or hiding my stuff, yet I know Dobbs, if he hid my stuff, it's just going to like, ha, here it is. But someone else, I don't know if they're going to do something to it or be relatively cruel or mean. And there's that whole aspect, I don't know if you're going to be going out drunk, or there will be other aspects to, since you don't know me and I don't know you, the aspect of if there is someone in the room in regards to what might happen after. Meaning if you have a child with you, what happens if there's a disagreement with us in the room? There's that possibility of you saying I did something to your child or to your girlfriend or something like that, that might happen down the road, and I don't want that risk. And this is not geared to anybody who is attending the show whatsoever. I want to minimize my risk and your risk.
Right.
So it's more so
I'm the
out
same
of
way.
respect. And with me having anxiety issues and suffering from other stuff, it's more trying to be more so polite. So there's that. And I just wanted to squash that. Maybe in the next couple of years, if we decide to go back next year, hopefully we would have funds to be there 3 nights and take the MARC train back home on Monday afternoon. And let me just say this right now. MARC train, your new machines freaking suck. They have the... now, here's the thing. MARC train has installed new machines in regards to getting their tickets. You could, in essence, get round-trip tickets right at any of those machines. There is one here in Martinsburg. But the thing is, if there is something wrong with your chip card, your ATM card or your credit card, there's something wrong with that security chip, you're pretty much SOL, shit out of luck. And thankfully, the Amtrak machine here in Martinsburg was able to give me my MARC train ticket to get into D.C. Now, the Amtrak machines, automated self-checkout machines, were just Amtrak only. The MARC train self-checkout was just as finicky with my card as the one here in Martinsburg. Therefore, let me just say on air, to those who operated the Amtrak ticket booth in Union Station in D.C., they were the politest people there. Very polite, very helpful. I went to the information desk and like, well, something's wrong with the machine. I can't really use my card. She said, well, you could get the Amtrak main ticket booth. They go through their people. They'll be able to help you there. You just might have to show your ID card, your driver's license or state ID, just to make sure you're you and that's your card.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And I went there and they said, yeah, we'll be more than happy to print up your MARC train ticket here. I'm like, thank you so much. They did it very politely with smiles, and it's like, we just need to see your ID to make sure the card you're using actually belongs to you. I'm like, that, you know what, if that's the only hassle I have to deal with, you know what, here's my ID. And they were more than happy to print up my ticket and everything else. Me personally, I prefer once I hit DC to get my ticket right then and there. That way I don't have to worry so much on the way back. But this year, noticing last year they kind of had this big line inside the Marriott in regards to getting everybody in who had ticket. They kind of did a switch up that it wasn't that big of a mess and hassle inside. So everything was more well oiled and everything else. Let me say this: the winners of this year's show, in regards to this year's Otakon, was. I'm kind of joking a little bit here, half joking, half serious. 1, our cell phone. 2, our budget GoPro. Yes, I could hear our co-host Big Candy laughing from here. And the third major winner, this is the blue ribbon winner, was the Dragon Ball booth this year. Oh my fucking God. They won. They had Dragon Ball is doing this tour this year.
All right.
And I guess they had this I guess they're hitting up a lot of the major conventions this year, and I haven't really posted it up. Bern might have seen the photo on Twitter. I'm showing him.
Yes.
That was the statue they had hanging over their booth. They had these statues. If this dragon, I'm not familiar. I don't know if the dragon. I'm familiar with Dragon Ball, but I'm not familiar with the cast of characters. I don't know if the dragon has an actual name in the show.
They don't refer to him by name often, but that is Shenron, the great dragon of Earth.
And this dragon, the Shenron, is was at least 20 feet wide from end to end, if maybe another 20 feet, let's say, square. It was detailed. It was as awesome as I'm trying to make it as sound. Hopefully, by the time this episode is posted, our preview tour of the show floor will be posted up. It's about 18 minutes long. It will be on hopefully at least on our YouTube channel, as well as our Facebook channel, Facebook page as well. And the video does not do it, or the photo doesn't do it justice at all. And I was telling one of the other people that was there with a press pass that the only way they could top that statue is having smoke come out of the nostrils or the mouth. Maybe some sort of not really actual smoke, like fake, like
the
fog machine type smoke. That would make it even more awesome. But this was awesome enough. They had like easily 5-foot statue of Vegeta. They had all these like 3 to 5 foot statues, and detailed and everything else. You could take your they had booths set up that you could stand on like a platform. They had over 9,000 set up. You could have the little
power scope.
They had like the cloud you could, in essence, ride on. You could all the stuff that you could have photos taken of, as long as if you tag DB, I forgot what it is, like Dragon Ball Tour 2018.
All right.
And they would at some point pick a winner and send you like a lanyard and something else. And one of the things that they did there is that if you followed them on Twitter and showed them that you actually followed them, you got this little coaster, like a Dragon Ball Z tour coaster, and it was like made out of like a mouse pad type of material, and it was just so cool. And they had the booth was like maybe again 40-foot square. I mean, it was huge. And the back part of the booth, they had like a dojo set up, and with like a little fighting platform. Yes, audio podcast. We're using air quotes that you could set up, and if you were there with a friend, you could make it look like you were fighting.
Yes.
But I mean, it was just a way for the fans to look at the new statues, and these 4-foot life-size statues. I mean, the booth, they did top tier work on this booth. There was also a few. I mean, nothing. No matter who else was there and what they were set up, you could. It was like, no, they won. Sorry.
Way better than Dragon Ball Evolution.
Fuck. It'd be like, dude, they won. They dropped the mic. We got to go home. Sorry. It'd be like, you and I trying to do a comedy set right after, Dave Chappelle. It's like, there's no way in hell we could top this. How can we, do our thing, with that starting out? So, there was a few booths later. I guess it was a Fallout themed booth, and he had a van totally decked out Fallout style, with Fallout stuff inside. The little cola caps, Nukem Cola, the whole awesome. nine yards. And the atypical, I think Crunchyroll wasn't there this year. Aniplex was there. Not as much rated X stuff there this year as it was last year. It seemed overall vendor and industry-wise lighter this year than it was last year for some reason. But fan-wise, when we first walked into the convention center, it seemed light. It seemed like, oh, really? It seemed like there was more people last year than this year by the time I walked in. This time around, that's what my thought was at about 9 o'clock, right. 9:30. But as I kind of walked back into that direction to head on out, I mean, it was literally like swamped. And I was like, whoa. I didn't expect that many people. The losers kind of this year was our Vivitar camera for the most part, and the main entrance stairs. The reason why I say, as some of you know, that we kind of picked up 2 Vivitar cameras this year, one of which was our budget GoPro, which has helped us if we do B-roll footage for a convention. The reason why we use that as our B-roll camera is because if it's knocked around a little bit, it has that outer casing to it, and the microphone inside the camera is more mono than stereo.
Right.
That which for the folks at home, if you like listening to stuff in stereo, I don't like using it that way. That's why I like to use our cell phone or get a better camera in regards to getting something stereo. Now the Vivitar digital camera that we picked up can record in video, but we were standing about 6 feet away from some of the cosplayers taking photos, and they were blurry as hell. We're talking about a 20 megapixel camera that was about $40. Yes, $40. Does not have an autofocus to it. That's right, it does not have an autofocus, which made our cell phone a better camera at 5 megapixels, front-facing camera, a better camera than that. So we won't be bringing that little camera at all to any more shows whatsoever, because why take blurry pictures? We might have, out of the several photos that we've taken, one was good. And we lost out on a photo with 2 people who were pretty much in Avatar cosplay. They were full. They had
Airbender or Cameron.
Cameron. The one person that was more of a leotard, but the face was painted,
right.
the colors. But I didn't want to ask them again to retake the photo. They were having way too much of a good time in regards to it. But there was a wide variety of cosplayers this year. There was someone who was, I think we might have posted up today as of this recording, someone dressed as Rick. He was wandering around the deal room, kind of doing the voice going, "Have you seen my Morty? Where's my Morty?" And there was someone in a full-body Mises outfit.
Oh, no way.
Yes. There was a wide variety of atypical Inuyashas and atypical Naruto and everything else spotted. One of the things that we did spot every now and again that we didn't really want to take a photo of because it was part of a Make-A-Wish type of ordeal. It was something in regards to a deal made between Niantic, the people who put out Pokemon Go, Nintendo, Otakon, and Make-A-Wish, because it was someone's wish to do like a real life Pokemon Go type event. So they had people in life-size Pokemon outfits and kind of set up stops inside the convention center for them to do. So it was wonderful to see that, and it was Make-A-Wish. So I didn't want to stop and take a photo when I was seeing it happen. So it was like, it was wonderful to see, wonderful to hear that this was their wish and that Otakon could take part of this. There was a lot of things we couldn't really take apart because of not being there all weekend and having to take the train back. Let me put it like this. We had such a long day. As soon as we got back to the train station, we were envious of the fucking pigeon that was wandering around Union Station. There's one pigeon that wanders around Union Station, and that freaking pigeon, as soon as we sat down, we were like, oh, we can't move. We're too dang tired. And yes, there's this pigeon, just more energy, and like, oh, you bastard. How dare you have more energy than I do right now? And it was because the night before we only got about 4 hours sleep. It was like, as soon as we got home from work, pass out.
Yeah.
And we had to be up at 3 o'clock to get ready to get to the train, and we were still very sore from the night before, dehydrated, and it was like, not to mention we do not heed our own advice going to shows. We did not hydrate well enough for the convention center. and by the time we got done, we were extra sore, dehydrated, and we didn't really want to buy a $5 bottle of water at Union Station or at the show. We did try to drink when we did try to drink water. We did have a water bottle with us, but I digress. But still, we did have fun. They did kick up their game a little bit this year. Through our emails, we thought that they might be showing their bad side that they had back in 2006, but it was like, I just was like, oh, they're going to piss us off again this year. We're not going to go back. All of a sudden, we're sorry. I'm like, son of a bitch, man. But they did have some errors or problems that, in regards to emailing, bulk email for, we have this guest, and this guest. And one of the things that we didn't really see an email from in regards to Otakon, like last year they kept sending us like about this time. I won't say this time, but the week prior to the show starting, they were telling, okay, we have extra slots open on Friday for this guest, and this guest. Do you want to, does anybody want in on this particular thing? There was really none of that this year. Let me just say this right now. I want to give them proper shout-outs. The nicest people, when we found out that we couldn't really get a interview with Johnny Young Bosch and Mr. Creepypasta, we put it out on Twitter saying, due to financial reasons, we had to decline our interviews with Johnny and Mr. Creepypasta. One of the person that pretty much stepped up. What we did, it was professional. Like, we're sorry, we had to cancel, but if you still want to speak to us or have an interview with us, we could do it through Skype. We'd be more than happy to. In essence, we were extending a hand, being respectful and extending a hand. The person that's, in essence, extended a hand in politeness back was Mr. Creepypasta. In a way, it was like Johnny was complete. I'm not saying he's not a bad guy, but it seemed like we didn't get any response back. Any like a way saying like, oh, speak to this person to set up something that we would talk to you at a later day.
One of my friends met Johnny Young Bosch, and he says, I don't know if this is true, but he says Johnny Young Bosch kind of thinks he's a rock star. I don't know if that's true, though.
Right. I've seen some Power Rangers folk have that kind of an attitude, and some not that kind of attitude. Right. In years past, I've seen two that were like that, and I know Mr. Coupon wasn't like that. Mr. Wells was not. Vernon Wells was not. Vernon Wells was very polite to us. He treated it like welcome to the family, Right. But there was no kind of like, hey, speak to my agent. We'll set something up to Skype. Mr. Creepypasta was like the first one. Like, hey, dude, if you want, let's hammer out details. I'm available most Fridays, and through either.
All right, awesome.
Fridays are usually the most available for me to set up something, or you could do something. We could do something through my Discord. I said, well, it's like, listen, right now both you and I are gearing up for Otakon. Let's wait until maybe sometime after. That way, we could hammer out the details then.
Sounds like a cool guy.
But the other person we kind of missed out on was, I don't know if they were setting up the same booth as Mr. Creepypasta. I'm going to give this person a shout out as well, and that is Creepy Raven. I
don't think I know him.
I guess he also does something similar to Creepypasta. There's a wide range. We're not familiar with his channel or her channel. I think it is him. But Creepy Raven, if you're listening, please, correct us. He or she said, pretty much said, we're going to be hanging out, because the person was replying to Mr. Creepypasta. And I said, too bad we kind of missed you yesterday. He's like, oh, we're going to be here at this table. It took us close to 2 hours yesterday to get our table. And I was like, all right, too bad we, being polite, we missed you. And he's like, oh, we're going to be at this table number today. Come meet us. I'm like, sadly, we were only able to afford yesterday. He said, oh, sorry to hear. It's like, but he was, again, this person was very polite to us, very cool to us. I'll give, because they were Mr. Creepypasta and Creepy Raven, were very cool to us. I just wanted to give them at least a proper shout out. I'll put links to their YouTube channel. I know a wide variety of you who do enjoy creepypastas out there.
I like Mr. Creepypasta.
I was editing a few of our shows to post up later on. I was listening to Tales from the gas station. It was like 7 hours long. It was just a compilation of all the series that he did, and it was humorous. It was more like, in the way it was written, it was more like they've been through this so long. It was like, another day, and part of it, the humor, it was more of a humorous creepypasta than it was a chilling. And one of the segments that was in that was when you came into the story, they were kind of captured and tied up, and their captor was like, have you ever met a god before? And he said, the way it was narrated was like both of them said yes. And one is like, I looked at Mr. Marlboro and I went, it was like, when did you meet a god? Oh, remember when you broke your leg and was out for 3 weeks? Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's when I met, so-and-so. But then again, I was high on mushrooms at the time. How about you? Well, you remember when we were attacked by naked zombies a few weeks ago and dragged through the dirt? Yeah, that's when I met the god of the trees. But then again, I was high on painkillers. It was just like, it was like, when did you, like, oh, yeah, that explains why. And
all right, I'm going to have to check this one out.
But, again, it's like 7 hours long, but it just goes by fast. It's something that you could listen to a chunk at a time, but it was just very, very humorous. It's not creepy, but it was also fun as well. Like I said, I enjoyed myself this year. It was very exhausting. I took plenty of photos, took video. The gaming section, this was the second year I was able to wander around their gaming section.
Right.
They had more so a lot of the Rock Band, Guitar Hero type of gaming setups this year. The cool thing is, last year they had a lot of independent people like, oh, I made this mobile game, give it a try. Not that much this year, but they had a lot of PC gaming tournaments going on. Card game. They had a Dragon Ball Z card game,
old school
type of thing going on. They had places to do like table setup. That way, if you want to do Pokemon card game, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic the Gathering, or whatever, there were tables for that. They had tables set up with surge protectors if you wanted to charge your handheld and do it that way. We did bring our 2DS with us, but we just got so busy doing what we needed to do with regards to press, and we just forgot to pull it out and just put it on sleep, so that way we could just farm everybody else's 2DS. But that's the sad part about having a limited time at a show. It's not like being able to, in regards to, this kind of covers in regards to being hydrated all the time when it comes to an event like Otakon. The reason why we tend to at least I tend to overlook being hydrated and remembering to drink, it's that covering. You just got to keep covering. I can't be like, okay, it's an event down the road, like at the Roundhouse here in town. Well, I could easily just swing by one of the local shops, pick up a thing of water, something like that, or if I go to Four State, I'm not no way, shape, or form knocking a Four State event. It's not like me being picked up by Big Candy and us heading to Four State and I'm telling them, hey, before we head on up that way, stop at Sheets so we could all pick up some stuff to drink and just stocking up. And it's one of the things I tend to sacrifice. Yes, it was one of the things that my body tends to get confused over because things slow down when I don't drink that often. And it was one of those things that if I eat the wrong food, it speeds things up. And my body was like, we don't know if we should slow down or speed up. What should we do? Let's do both. That was that.
That's why I always bring a Brita bottle.
I have a sports bottle,
right,
similar to this, but to kind of move things on. But we'll probably come back to Otakon and BronyCon in a bit. But the third thing I wanted to cover was what happened. Now, BronyCon happened, 2 weeks ago?
The last weekend of July, so about 2 weeks ago.
Otakon happened, obviously, this past week, but what happened in between that we kind of want to, at least I want to cover, is what happened at Gencon last week. For those of you who are not familiar with Gencon, it's strictly a gaming con. For those here listening to this that are local, it's like ID4Con. Basically, it's board games, video games, card games, tabletop gaming, that sort of type of ordeal. And to kind of explain, they would normally have an event this size at Gencon. They would have a few creators and artists that work on maybe Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering. Maybe Mattel would be there in reference to the creators of certain board games, along those lines. Yeah. That's what it's geared for. It's for those fans. But what happened? Now, a lot of the people that after this news, I kind of looked into it. There were a lot of people that have said that this particular show is very expensive. Like the VIP ticket. Let's see here. From what we heard, there was a lot of problems. This year had loads of problems. The will call was wrapped around the building 3 times, literally, from what we heard. To use our favorite word, raise your glasses and take a drink, allegedly. Some say it took volunteers, when they got to the front of the line to pick up their tickets at will call, the volunteers took 5-10 minutes to find people's names. They were supposed to be in alphabetical order. They were not. A lot of people were saying that there was seemingly a lot of logistic issues that were going on behind the scenes that were not the volunteers' fault. Mm-hmm. It just took 5 to 10 minutes for people to get their actual tickets, and that was one. As per prices, a 4-day pass was $110. Yeah, that was for the 4-day. Regular 4-day pass. A Thursday pass was $60. Friday pass was $60. Saturday pass was $70.
Dang, pricey.
Right, but Sunday pass was $15. Just to get for a trade. I don't know what they mean by a trade day, but their trade day pass was $200. A VIG pass, I guess that means in regards to their type of show, it would be very important gamer. Yes, air quotes on an audio podcast, but that for new attendees to get that particular pass for their VIG pass, $650 for a VIG pass.
I thought BronyCon could get pricey.
that's for new. If you were going for the first time and wanted that pass, people who are doing it for a second time or more, $600 for returning people. Plus, they had events at the show where, like, Otakon has additional events, and maybe a concert might cost extra. I know in years past when they did their part, I don't know about BronyCon, but when Otakon usually has their rave or their party, it's a free ticket. The events for Gencon, additional like tournaments, there were some that were free, but there was still a large chunk that cost anywhere from as low as $2, but as high as $110 for some of these events. So, in essence, if you spent $650 on a ticket, you were spending $110 for this particular event that if you chose to go to. And
I don't think so.
that's where some of the other people were complaining that, like, wait a minute, you want me to participate in this particular Magic the Gathering? I'm just pulling something out of my hat, or for the sake of argument, you want me to participate in this particular fun tournament? You want me to spend another $10 on this? That's what some of the things that people were complaining about in regards to that overall, that this was very expensive. But the major thing that came out of this was that there was a YouTuber who attended this. His in real life name is Jeremy. I'm not going to give his last name. He runs 2 YouTube channels. I should say, on YouTube he runs 2 channels. One is called The Quarterling. The other one is called Unsleeved Media. Unsleeved Media is more of a Magic the Gathering / card game type channel where he discusses things that are happening in those communities. And The Quarterling is more pop culture. And he, in one of his videos in regards to Gencon, he brought up the fact of, in regards to Gencon in reference to their guests, and he pretty much questioned the whole aspect of why did Gencon bring in as a guest YouTube's and the internet's most hated person, Anita Sarkeesian.
Oh, hell no.
And for those of you who are, again, not familiar with this person, she runs a YouTube channel called Feminist Frequency, and for the most part, in my humble opinion, has gotten a lot of... She's entitled to her own opinion, let me say that, and we do not condone or support any of the hate that... things that have been directed towards her, but we do agree with a lot of the opinions that have been put out there in regards to that she has been proven wrong time and time again. We're going to direct the fact that at last year's, we did cover what happened last year at VidCon in regards to some of her detractors, if you want to call them that, went to her panel, sat at her panel, did not cause any trouble whatsoever, and she pretty much threw a major hissy fit in regards to, and she called these particular people garbage humans. She pretty much wanted these folks kicked out for, in essence, doing absolutely nothing. And she tried to, her followers have tried to get several of the people that were in that that particular panel sitting there off of Patreon and everything else. So, not to mention her secondary panel that she had at VidCon last year about bullying and so forth and so on. The other person that was on that, let me put it like this, as far as I remember, the only male person on that panel was a YouTuber by the name of Boogie2988. He is
not familiar.
He's lost a lot of weight, but he's a rather large YouTuber, and he proclaimed, he's like, at his final statements, he said something along the lines of like, women are not the only ones bullied on the internet. I've been bullied several times myself, and He said it's wrong either way, no matter what. And one of his biggest fears was that he'd get feedback from Anita Sarkeesian. And what does she do after the panel? Pretty much bully Boogie 2988. And all this can be looked up on YouTube in regards to what happened, including with what happened with Boogie. And as to why you could hear both sides of the story. We're not going to get into both sides. You could easily search it on YouTube, search it on Google. We're going to do it like that. But Jeremy on his channel's question in regards to, here is Gencon, where you should have more so artists and people. Heck, he didn't really say it, but if he would have been more agreeing if someone, let's say, one of the voice actors from Yu-Gi-Oh! Showed up for Gen Con. He could probably understand that because even though it's a card game, there was a TV show. But one of the biggest problems he has, like, why isn't Anita Sarkeesian going to this? He shouldn't be here. And what happened to him, he arrived maybe a day or two prior to Gen Con starting. Mm-hmm. That Wednesday night, while doing a little bit of live streaming in certain areas, he was at a bar, talking to some of the people that were there early. Someone came up to him from behind, asked, "Are you Jeremy?" And he turned around to say, "Yeah, and good to meet you." And he got sucker punched. Literally sucker punched. And the guy did not stop hitting him in the back of the head. It took several people to pry this person off of him. And he kind of went inside the bar for more security. And they blocked his attacker from going in, following after him. His attacker punched one of the glass panels that was by the door, shattering it, and wandered off. There has been a police report filed. He's seeking legal means in regards to various things in regards to that end. He hasn't really got into that much in regards to legalities because of legal proceedings.
Yeah.
But
it's not really something someone's going to be in a hurry to talk about.
He's talking about it, but due to it being going through the aspects of the courts, there's not much he could really say that because it will hurt his case. But the aspect of the bar refused to release any security camera footage to the cops or any of that sort of thing. Now that it's being, I guess, processed through the court system, and I think Jeremy might have a few lawyers, or he has a lawyer right now that might formally request that footage. That everything's up in the air and through court, so this is alleged. So and going through the court process, but at the time, Bar did not want to report it or release anything to the cops. And some people have wondered, why not? Well, they are a bar. When it comes to a local pub or bar, they are damned if you do, damned if you don't. They don't, and it comes to the cops, they can lose their license and ability to operate. They do, there's a same probability of them losing their license and ability to operate. They should have at least cooperated. In my humble opinion, they should at least cooperated. Therefore, if it would have been probably a less percentage of chance of them losing stuff than anything else. Now, when it comes to Gen Con, during their live stream, well, this was just a brush fire and just like gas keep getting thrown on it. A lot of the attendees who found out about what happened to Jeremy, they went on Gen Con's Twitch live stream going, this happened to Jeremy. What are you going to do about it? Our safety is at stake. What are you going to do about it? What are your thoughts? What's going to happen? Gen Con hit the ban hammer so fast, so hard, after maybe about 10-15 minutes, they shut down their chat for the rest of the show. Because they didn't want nobody talking about this. They didn't want anybody else finding out this has happened. I don't know if Gen Con has come up with a official statement. Many people who were commentating on this outside of Jeremy himself were saying that if this happened to someone like Anita, there would
be hell on earth.
It would be hell on earth. This would have been instant. But because it's somebody who has talked about Magic the Gathering and Gencon, let's just brush this under the rug.
Well, congratulations. Put out a dumpster fire with a bigger dumpster fire.
Right. Whether or not they're officially going to do something, but now to get a little bit, now I'm not knocking Jeremy at all. Even Van Sliver, I'm pronouncing his name not on purpose, but he helped set up, he's a major artist in the comic community, helped set up a GoFundMe for a lawyer for Jeremy. At the time I last checked it, it was around $14,000 GoFundMe. Whether it's more or what have you now, I'm not sure. But at the time it was like $13,800, so $14,000 is about right. And Jeremy has stated that because of this war chest being there, depending on how do you put it? Depending on the path he chooses to follow in regards to this, will depend on what he does with the money. Meaning, if he needs that money, he's going to use it. Whatever is he said whatever is not used, he's going to donate.
Good on him.
Yeah, he said he'll provide the receipts for it, or let's say he finds a lawyer that says, you know what, if this is going to go through a lawsuit, or the aspect of the lawsuit, I'll just take a percentage. Don't worry about that money. He'll donate it or refund it. Those were kind of his words. Like, if I don't use this, I'll discuss it with all of you, probably through a live chat or something like that. We'll figure out what to do with the money, whether it's donated or I refund it. He said I'll be more than happy to do that. But that at one point, Jeremy's, let me put it like this: his major controversy they had over the past, let's say, 6-8 months, was the fact that he got officially banned from any Magic the Gathering event. Mm-hmm. Because what happened was I think, again, 6-8 months ago, he talked about a Magic the Gathering cosplayer. And in essence, from what I gather in regards to that, she was kind of, I'm not saying all cosplayers do it. Yeah. Some cosplayers tend to go on Patreon. They'll do a regular, let's say, whatever cosplay, let's say, this particular cosplay, and they'll do something else that is more risque. And right. And he said that his opinion was like, what the majority of this cosplay was doing more so was this character, Magic the Gathering character, in a lingerie setting. And there was a big uproar against that over his opinion, and Magic the Gathering and Wizards of the Coast, who runs it, said, guess what? You're banned for life. And from what I've been hearing, Wizards of the Coast and Magic the Gathering is becoming its own dumpster fire, because at one point news has come out in regards to the fact that one of their more professional and supported players set up 2 Facebook groups called Magic the Gathering Good and Magic the Gathering Evil. Good was pretty much how to put decks together, create your own Magic decks. The other one was just, the Evil was just, okay, if you guys want shits and giggles, talk about. Good was pretty much, let's keep it strictly Magic, how to play, strategies, and if you want other conversations,
go to Evil.
Go to Evil. And a lot of from what I heard, this particular person just set up the groups. That's all he did. Other people kind of ran them, but the Evil, there was a lot of memes and stuff like that. And when Magic Wizards of the Coast got word of it, they said, "Guess what? 1 year ban." Now the person that he banned and pretty much in essence fired for 1 year was earning roughly maybe about $30,000 to $40,000 a year. So in essence, they fired him for 1 year. That damages an income for
It does.
It does. Now, where the controversy in regards to that, from what I heard, is that someone else, a female professional under their employ, yes, air quotes again, was set up a strictly what would be considered a Magic the Gathering evil forum strictly on Reddit. And so far, nothing's been happening from Wizard. So, and also from what I've been hearing, Wizards of the Coast has been banning people on Twitter, like just not so much banning, but kind of blocking a whole mess of players on, in essence, hurting their customer base, because from what I've been hearing, it costs between $200 to $500, meaning that what Wizards or Magic tends to do is, like Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon, every so often they put up more and more card sets or different card sets.
Right.
And a lot of people, to keep up and make sure their decks are current, they tend to buy more cards every year or every set. And it's like, wait a minute, this is a person that would be spending $100, and you're blocking 2, 3, 5, 10 people. That's money that you're in essence saying, I don't want. How many people are you going to say block before they decide, I don't want to spend money on
ship.
Yeah, jump ship. So, and what would happen, let's see here, it's like, they did identify the person that did the punch. Whether or not, again, the court case or there's a lawsuit, we'll know in time, and what happened. Well, I'm kind of following it, but not really following it.
Not closely.
Not closely. So I'm keeping an ear down the ground. And for those of you listening out there, it's kind of like the Star Wars: The Last Jedi thing. It's like new news keeps coming out. It's like that dumpster fire. I don't want to, as much as I don't want to cover it. New stuff. It's like I don't want to. I'm getting sick and tired of talking about the same shit week in, week out. For some people it works, but I don't want to. It's like, how many times do I have to cover it before if I'm sick and tired of it, talking about it, good chance someone like you are sick and tired of listening to it. So I don't want to. I might, like, hey, guess what? We heard a little bit more about what happened with Jeremy. That's down the road. Maybe that's kind of a good thing that we stocked up on panel recordings from BronyCon, and hopefully we'll get that interview with Mr. Creepypasta.
Right.
That way, if a lot of major stuff comes up, we'll do that, and helps us spread the butter a little bit easier. And you folks at home listening to this, it makes it a little bit easier for all of you to deal with, like, oh yeah, we got more Star Wars crap again. But hopefully over the next couple of months we do have. That's about it in regards to Gencon, Otakon. We might get, over the next couple of months, we'll put it in with maybe at the tail end of our panel recordings. If anything interesting, like it happened last year at Otakon, in regards to, they had that one particular small-time YouTuber kind of ghosting the convention to kind of fill Blaine in on it. What happened last year is that there was a YouTuber just vlogging in the DC area.
Mm-hmm.
In his video, he pretty much saw somebody in cosplay. He said, "Where are you going?" They said, "Otakon, it's down the road at the convention center." He said, "Oh, I'm into anime." He decided to go in. He went through security, and you could still buy tickets inside. Yeah. They let him in, but you can't really, after a certain point, you're not really allowed any further because you got to show the pass. He went in. He didn't go past that point, but one of the sections he went into was the photographer's area. We probably would have been allowed to go. It's strictly a studio setting. I don't know if I would have been allowed in, but I think I might have, because I took photos of the event, but I think it was more so strictly for the major photographers to go in if they like, hey, come on in. It would be a safer place for a major photographer to take photos of the cosplayers and so forth and so on, and have them work on their photos there. This particular YouTuber went in. That you could do that without a pass. Meaning it would have been easier for me to go in there with my press pass and negotiate, like, hey, I took some photos, can I hook it up and kind of do some editing?
Gotcha.
Yeah, they probably would have went. I'm not saying they would. They probably would have went. Yeah, you just gotta sign here and fill out this paperwork, or just sign here,
right.
Go right ahead. But for the most part, he didn't have that credential, and I think from what some people said, he was focusing on a lot of the younger cosplayers, and younger folk. There are, even with me, if I saw a cosplayer that was
looked to be underage.
Let's say there's Evangelon, I think is the name of the anime. If someone was dressed up in an Evangelon like jumpsuit,
Evangelion.
very form-fitting suit, and to me they looked 16 or under, I would not go, hey, can I get a photo? No, I wouldn't do that. Now, if they looked over 18 or above that, I would be like, hey, no problem, click. But it seemed like this particular person was doing more wide shots of the younger kid, like focusing. I'm not saying he was doing that, but it seemed like he. The person that was holding the camera for him was going that way. It was so broad that the younger sets were more so involved. And he was approached by a staff member, and the YouTuber kind of refused to go with him to either management or to get a pass. Meaning that he's like, oh, are you here for the show? The volunteer, the person, the staff member was like, did kind of have an attitude. From what a lot of people said, that there was a chance that one of the people that the person videotaped was his kid. So, meaning in the pan shots.
Yeah.
So his kind of temperamental was kind of understandable, and he was like, "Do you got a pass? Let me see your pass." And the guy was like, I don't have one. He's kind of like trying to be more, why should I need one or anything like that? And he said, well, you need to come with me to management. If you want a pass, we could probably, he was trying to be at least somewhat polite, even though there was a little bit of underlining of an attitude. Management would like to speak to you. They could register him as press or work out a type of way for him to purchase a pass for the show, so he could at least legitimately videotape inside the event. And he refused to do either, and they're like, nope, you got to leave. And he was kind of like, oh yeah, they kicked me out. No, you just frankly didn't want to follow the rules, and you didn't want to purchase a ticket. You didn't want to follow the person to management to get a press pass, which they probably would have politely given you. You just wanted to be a dick about it and walked out and said you were, quote unquote, kicked out. So in essence, he ghosted the show. And so far, from what I've heard, I haven't been following. Right now, I haven't heard anything about something like that happening again this year. Mm-hmm. But one of the fun things that scatterbrain. One of the fun things that did happen was, in essence, registering for waiting to register for press. One of the things I brought with me was my Kindle. That way, if I want to sit and read, I have something to read. And plus, when I came home, I could read while I was having dinner at the local diner. I noticed someone else to register for press had the same type of cover, Kindle tablet cover. And I said, Kindle? He's like, nah, it's just your average Android tablet. I'm like, yeah, but I got the same cover for mine. He was like, you do? And I reached in my bag, pulled out mine, like, see? And it was just like, hey, the fun stuff. Even the press this year was more nicer, at least than last year. Last year's press was kind of had that snobby feel about it. Mm-hmm. This year, the people that kind of hanging out in the press green room were a little bit more friendly, and it wasn't like, you're here? Who the hell are you? It was more like, hey, welcome. So whether or not we go back next year is kind of open. I don't know. I'll have to see how I feel next year. It's nothing against Otakon. It's just how I want to feel this year. I just got completely wore out.
Got to see where the cards fall.
Yeah. If I don't, I don't. It's not against Otakon whatsoever. I did enjoy myself. Part of me wants to go back next year to see how, what topped Otakon this year from last year was definitely the Dragon Ball booth. To see how next year holds. Main reason I wanted to go back this year is that I want to have two shows to compare to.
Right.
Instead of you had one bad, one good, had us number 3 fall. How does number 4 fall? I don't know. I'll have to see how the cards fall next year. Yes, folks, our arch nemesis, AwesomeCon, was there kind of dealing with their thing, but when it came to, they wanted, again, to us it seemed like they wanted to deal with everybody else but somebody with a press ticket. That's on them. It's like, instead of unlike someone like Matt, was like, we're kind of using Matt as an example for Force State. Someone like Matt in Force State, you'd be like, your press, you mind telling everybody about our show? AwesomeCon didn't really, at their booth, didn't really want to do that. They were there, but it's like a lot of the other, we did get approached by at least one other show telling us about I think they're out of Philly. They're an anime type of show, starting up. They're starting growing. They were more than happy to, that's what you're supposed to do. And to me, AwesomeCon has always been that closed-minded show when it comes to, they'd rather, meaning if you and I went to AwesomeCon, I had that press pass. Mm-hmm. My ticket, my badge looks like yours. The only difference is I have something attached to mine that says registered press.
Right.
They'd come to you saying, have you heard about AwesomeCon? Here's our flyer.
So
here's our flyer. Right. Me, they would ignore whatsoever. Whereas someone like Matt would come and reference the Force State, there'd be 2 flyers and say, have you heard about our show? And meaning that he wants me to spread the word. Like, hey, we got, look at this small time show out of, Hagerstown, Maryland. They already have, several guests. He's going to openly hustle harder than AwesomeCon. But it's kind of hard to say. A few years that we were at AwesomeCon, I could easily make the same case for Otakon. It was seemingly lackluster,
right.
But I think that might be an issue with a lot of the larger shows as it is. They figure that we're going to get the standard 30,000, 40,000 people on a year. Why should we hustle any harder? Well, you should. Even though, let's look at BronyCon as an example. Yeah. If you don't hustle or don't promote as hard, the folks you can't really rely on. There's going to be a new round of anime shows. There's going to be a new round of pop culture to constantly feed that 30,000,
right.
40,000 people on a yearly basis. You have to constantly
branch out.
Not so much branch. I'm not saying BronyCon should have branched out, but if you,
That was something they were on the fence about.
yeah, if they constantly hustled harder, like, hey, you know, that new person, like, have you heard about BronyCon? Come on, there might be something that you'd be interested in. Hey, you like comics? We're going to have some comic creators there. Granted, they're Brony for My Little Pony, but here's a flyer. But don't be worried if you're, you know, we're more than welcome for what you're doing. But there's that. And, you know, you can't rely on that cycle. Now, also, I might add today, in regards to Otakon, also in DC, they're having an alt-right. This no relation to Otakon. They're having an alt-right march right in front of the White House. So the press release was, and in the mall area or where the museums are, there was a counter protest type of ordeal happening. So yes, there was a lot of press in regards to Otakon saying, you know, this is going on. They have their permits.
Yay, politics.
Yay, politics. For your safety, we recommend, yes, we're keeping an eye on it. For your safety and everything else, please stay closer to the convention center. Do not engage, you know, both sides. That way, if there is any violence, you're not bringing eyes closer to us. This is more so their security, and everybody's keeping an eye on it. Today, I have not heard, as of this recording, everything's fine and dandy with the show. There has been no fire up saying that stuff is washed up on the shores of Otakon and back to. So, as far as I know, maybe if I hear stories later on in the week, because again, the event is still going on right now as of this recording, and though we will catch some of the waves of what tends to happen after a show, we tend to, when I post up this episode on Monday, and our videos to YouTube and Facebook over the weekend, we will see a washing up of listeners and viewers wanting all that information of, okay, what did this person see? What did this person catch?
Yeah.
And it'll wash back through. So I won't know any stories until later in the week. And hopefully when that happens, there'll be probably a Otakon follow-up episode, kind of like what we did last year, folks, when we found out about the ghosting. But for right now, we didn't hear anything in that regards. Maybe over the next week or two, if we do get that interview with Mr. Creepypasta, we'll put something, maybe attach it to that. That way, when we get further news in regards to what happens with Otakon, i.e. final numbers, anything different that happens at Otakon over the weekend, we'll kind of attach it to that. Like we did last year when they had that major storm. I know you didn't follow it last year. They had it was raining over the course of what happened in D.C., and one of the drainage pipes that was this was not the fault of Otakon whatsoever. This was more of a structural issue at the convention center. One of the drainage pipes for the roof burst. The seal just came undone, and it drenched their artist alley. And
that's horrible.
And because it was getting so much rain and water. So this was not, in essence, it was no way Otakon's fault. But larger, for those folks at home, a lot of large buildings like a convention center or a warehouse, or like a building like Walmart, they have kind of like drainage systems on the roof to catch the rainwater and focus that water to like the storm drains in the ground. and last year one of those pipes were not working right, and it drenched Artist Alley. There was minor injuries, nothing too major. I think somebody slipped and fell and kind of conked their head on something, but it was just nothing that more than aspirin had to be released. But
Right.
nothing like that this year. It seemed like a nice day on everybody's part. I think we might be getting a little rain today, but overall, nothing along those lines. It might be a quiet year. Again, over the next week or two, we'll probably get final numbers. That seems to be about it. If any of you out there who did attend the con this year, please, if you want to share your story with us, you can do so by emailing us at longcoatmafia@gmail.com. We'll be happy to read your tale on air, whether it's good or bad. Or you can message us on Facebook, which by going to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/The Lone Coat Mafia Podcast. We're also on Twitter. You can DM us on Twitter and or Instagram, which is both handles are Lone Coat Mafia. If you see a photo of yourself in cosplay that we have taken a picture of and you want us to properly tag you, either on Instagram or on Facebook, please share with us your name or your Instagram handle. That way we could properly tag you and give you credit. Since we're not really diverse in a lot of things that are anime, if you don't want to be tagged but you want us to fill in the character that you portrayed, please let us know, and we will be more than happy to edit that information. Just message us or leave a comment, and we'll be more than happy to adjust. Let's see what else. If you wish to listen to our past episodes, you could do one of the following. If you got a desktop computer, you could easily go to Stitcher Radio, Spotify, or our website, which is thelongcoatmafia.podbean.com. Doing it that way, you have access to all our episodes going way back to the beginning, and you're able to download all those episodes and listen to them on your MP3 player of choice, whether it's iTunes or Windows related, or if you want, you can use directly iTunes. But if you listen to us on the go, you can always listen to us through Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, or Google Play Podcasts. Plus Stitcher, the Stitcher Radio app, the Spotify app, and our personal favorite, the Podbean app, which is more reliable than Apple Podcasts and Google Play because they're always adjusting stuff, and there's always that aspect of occasionally iTunes, Apple products or Google Play going, we can't find that right now. And it's not just our show. I could be listening to a show like Joe Rogan, for example, or the podcast known as How Did This Get Made? And there could be a bunch of episodes that Apple pretty much goes, we can't find this. Their site is up and running, but how can you not find it? They didn't move their links. They're still on this page. We can't find it. We don't know what to do. But that's why I always recommend if you're on the go, using the Podbean app, because it tends to be a little bit more reliable, and you're able to listen to all our episodes going back to the beginning. The aspect of the last 20 or so episodes is a standard. It's easier for a lot of the programs instead of getting all 155 plus episodes right at once. So that's that. What else? I seem like getting something. We'll leave it at that. If you have any other questions other than show related, I mean Otakon, Brony, or anything we covered today, just email us or message us on Facebook, and we'll be more than happy to get back to you as soon as we can. Stay tuned. We do have still a whole mess of panel episodes that we are slowly putting out, and due to the fact that where it was, those episodes were recorded. There's going to be a reoccurring theme amongst all those episodes. And I don't mean because they're paranormal related, because where they were recorded, you had a lot of the panelists walking away from the mic and talking really low. Our mic, nor the PA mic, picked up those whispers because the person, I think the one person we put up last week, she did not remove the PA system mic to bring with her, and thus we lost 6 minutes of that episode and content. And because it was, the panels were being held in such a very large room, none of the people who asked questions, the mics picked up. And someone who agreed with us that if a question is asked, the standard courtesy is, okay, if someone asked, what is your favorite color, it's standard for the person doing the piano, for those who haven't heard in the back, this gentleman or this person here asked what my favorite color is. For that answer, it's this. None of the panels that we attended did that. And it was like, okay, or resaid the question in their answer. So there might be, we'll keep you informed in the show description in regards to how much of that we cut out. I think at most, a lot of the other panels that I have to go through, there's still like another 7 or 8 panels that we have to put out. Hopefully, the least number of minutes that we get to cut out is maybe about 1 or 2. But I think the most so far that we had to cut out is 6. And the reason is, again, the location. And if we tried to boost the questions or the responses if they walked away from the mic, it would be completely pointless at that point because it's still like boosting static. There's nothing to be heard, and it's completely inaudible. So it's easier just to cut it out and say it's gone, and us saying, you know what, the best person to complain to, here's their link and here's their email. You complain to them, or we had complaints about you walking away from the mic and not saying anything. So yell at us, and we'll yell at the proper people. So that's it. Y'all take care. And for those of you who have currently listening to this after Otakon, which I'm going to say Otakon number 1. So thanks to the folks at Otakon that had to deal with us for leading up to and the day of. Sorry for the problems, but again, thank you, Mr. Creepypasta and Creepy Raven. So hope all of you had fun this weekend. Hope to speak to all of you at some point for further episodes. So take care. We are out. Now, do you have anything final to say?
Keep an eye out for me, Blaine. I am on social media normally as Blaine Hoop. You can find me on Twitter as ShadyHP23, the Drunken Grandmaster. Keep an eye out for me and my documentary, The Crazy Sunshine Project, which is currently the working title.
And we'll, once everything is done, we'll be more than happy to relay the links to, as soon as we find out the links, we'll be more than happy to relay those links all to you.
GoFundMe. Excellent, thank you.
See you next time on the Long Coat Mafia.